In exactly 24 hours, there's a solar eclipse that will completely reset your financial reality. But here's what nobody's telling you. The reset isn't tomorrow. The reset is happening right now, because the women who are going to come out of tomorrow's eclipse wealthy, powerful, magnetic, they're not preparing, they're not getting ready, they already disappeared. 48 hours ago, they went dark, they stopped responding, they cancelled everything, they became unreachable. And right now, in these final 24 hours before the eclipse, they're in complete silence. Not because they're meditating or doing some spiritual practice, because they understand that silence is the final wealth signature, the ultimate proof that you've chosen your prosperity over everyone else's comfort. And if you're still here, still reading this, still consuming content, still in the group chats, still explaining yourself to people who don't pay you, I need to be really honest with you. You might already be too late, because the women who are going to quantum leap tomorrow, they're not online right now. They're not watching videos about the eclipse. They're in the void, in the silence, in the complete blackout that proves they've already made the choice. But there's still 24 hours. And if you can go completely silent right now, if you can disappear without explanation, if you can prove through your absence that you've chosen your power over their approval, you might still make it through tomorrow's portal. But you have to move now, and you have to understand something critical. This isn't about being spiritual. This is about being strategic. This is the final wealth test, and most women are failing it while thinking they're still in the game. The Morrigan doesn't announce her arrival. She just appears when the battle is already won. Let me tell you about the Morrigan, the Celtic goddess of war, fate, and sovereignty. She's not like other war deities who show up in armor making grand declarations. The Morrigan appears silently, often as a crow, watching, waiting, and when she shows up on the battlefield, the outcome is already decided. Not because she fights, because her presence itself shifts everything. The warriors who see her know this battle is already won or lost. Her silence carries more power than anyone else's war cry. That's the energy that's available to you in these final 24 hours. Not the warrior who announces her plans, not the woman who explains her moves, not the performer who needs everyone to understand her process. The Morrigan, the silent presence that changes outcomes without speaking, the power that doesn't need to be explained because it's so absolute it speaks for itself. Here's what I've noticed about wealthy women in the 24 hours before major life shifts. They go dark, completely. Their phones go silent. Their social media goes quiet. Their availability drops to zero. And if you ask them about it later, they don't even remember doing it consciously. It was instinctive. Because power knows when to be seen and when to disappear. And right before a quantum leap, real power always chooses invisibility. The broke performers, they're still posting, still explaining, still trying to document their eclipse preparation, still in the group chats talking about their intentions, still available, still accessible, still leaking their energy into performances that generate zero return. And tomorrow, when the eclipse hits, they're going to wonder why nothing changed, why the breakthrough didn't come, why they're still in the same financial reality they've been stuck in. And the answer will be simple. They never went silent. They never proved through their absence that they'd actually chosen their wealth over the performance. They were still too afraid of being forgotten to risk being unreachable. And the universe doesn't reward that. The universe rewards the woman who's so certain of her value that she can disappear for 24 hours without anxiety, without explanation, without performing her process for an audience that doesn't pay her. What's actually happening in these final 24 hours, and why silence is the only strategy that works. So let me break down what's happening astrologically, because you need to understand why silence specifically is the requirement right now. The moon is at its absolute darkest point, less than 1% illumination, basically invisible. This is called the void moon or the balsamic moon, and it's in Aquarius, the sign of community, networking, visibility, connection. When the moon goes void in the sign of connection, it's creating what I'd call an energetic paradox. The sign says, be visible, be connected, be part of the community. But the moon phase says, be invisible, be disconnected, be in the void. And that paradox is the test. Can you choose the moon phase over the sign? Can you choose invisibility even when everything in you wants to stay connected? Can you risk being forgotten to claim your power? Tomorrow at 4:11 a.m. Pacific, the solar eclipse hits at 28 degrees Aquarius. This is a complete reset, an ending and beginning simultaneously, but eclipses are portals, not programs. You can't plan your way through them. You can't strategize them. You can only position yourself energetically, and the positioning that works for wealth, for power, for magnetic abundance is complete silence, complete unavailability, complete disconnection from the noise. Because here's what happens during an eclipse. The universe downloads new realities, new timelines, new possibilities, but it can only download them into empty space, into silence, into the void. If you're still running your old programs, still performing your old patterns, still accessible to your old obligations, there's no space for the new reality to land. You're full, and the universe can't fill what's already full. The women who go silent, who create space, who empty themselves of all the noise and performance and obligation, they're the ones who can actually receive the download. They're the ones who wake up after the eclipse in a completely different financial reality, not because they manifested harder, because they were empty enough to be filled with something new. Aquarius, you're being asked to betray your own sign, and it's the only way you survive tomorrow. If you're an Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising, these final 24 hours are your ultimate test, and it's going to feel like betrayal, because you're the sign of community, of friendship, of being there for people. And right now, the universe is asking you to abandon all of that, to choose silence over connection, to disappear when every instinct in you wants to show up. Here's what I think has been happening for you over the past few days. You've been feeling this pull to withdraw, but every time you start to actually do it, guilt creeps in. What about the people who need you? What about your commitments? What about your reputation as someone who shows up? And so you've been halfway disconnected, kind of quiet, but still available, sort of absent, but still checking in. And that halfway energy is exactly what's going to keep you stuck tomorrow. The eclipse is in your sign. This is your reset, your quantum leap, your opportunity to completely transform your relationship to wealth, power, and magnetic abundance. But it only works if you can fully betray your own nature, if you can choose to be the anti-Aquarius for 24 hours, unavailable instead of accessible, silent instead of communicative, absent instead of present, selfish instead of community-oriented. Between now and tomorrow morning at 4:11 a.m., you need to make a choice. Are you going to be the Aquarius everyone expects? Available, helpful, connected, part of the community? Or are you going to be the Morrigan, silent, absent, unreachable, powerful beyond words? Because you can't be both. And tomorrow's eclipse is going to amplify whichever choice you make. If you stay available, the eclipse will show you exactly how much your accessibility has been costing you. You'll see clearly how many people take without giving, how many connections drain without reciprocating, how much your community-oriented nature has been keeping you broke, and it's going to hurt. Because Aquarius hates being alone, hates being disconnected, hates the feeling that you've let people down. But if you go silent, if you disappear completely, if you prove through your absence that you've chosen your power over their comfort, the eclipse is going to open doors you didn't even know existed, opportunities that don't require community approval, wealth that doesn't depend on being liked, power that comes from being unreachable, not accessible. The specific prediction I'm seeing for you is this. The women in your circle who are used to your availability are going to panic. They're going to reach out. They're going to ask if you're okay. They're going to want to know where you went. And your response to that panic will determine your financial future. If you explain, if you reassure, if you make yourself available to calm their anxiety, you fail the test. If you stay silent, let them wonder, let them be uncomfortable with your absence, you pass, and tomorrow's eclipse rewards you accordingly. Leo, your magnetism only increases when nobody can find you, and tomorrow proves it. Now, Leo, sun, moon, or rising, this final 24 hours is hitting your 7th house, the house of partnerships and one-on-one relationships. And I need you to understand something that's going to feel counterintuitive. Your value doesn't come from being seen, it comes from being sought. And right now, you need to make yourself unfindable. Here's what I think you've been struggling with. You're magnetic. People are drawn to you, and you've built your entire identity around being the sun, the center, the one everyone orbits around. And that's beautiful, but it's also kept you accessible, available, easy to reach. And accessible magnetism is cheap magnetism. It doesn't command premium prices. It doesn't create scarcity. It doesn't make people value your time as the asset it is. The wealthiest Leos I know, they're impossible to reach, not because they're rude, because their time is so valuable that access to it is a privilege, not a given. And in these final 24 hours before the eclipse, you're being asked to embody that level of scarcity, to make yourself so unavailable that your absence creates desire, that people start to realize how much they took your presence for granted. Between now and tomorrow morning, I'm seeing situations where the people who have the most access to you are going to test you. They're going to reach out. They're going to need something. They're going to expect you to show up the way you always have, and your response determines everything. If you respond, if you make yourself available, if you perform your usual radiance, you're telling the universe, my magnetism is free, my energy is accessible, my time has no value, and tomorrow's eclipse will reflect that back to you. But if you stay dark, if you don't respond, if you let people experience your absence as a loss, you're reprogramming your entire energetic signature. You're teaching the universe, my magnetism is scarce, my energy is precious, my time is worth more than you've been paying, and the eclipse will match that frequency. Opportunities will show up that actually pay you what you're worth. People will invest in access to you instead of expecting it for free. Your entire financial reality will shift to reflect your new scarcity model. The seventh house rules partnerships, and I think you're going to discover in these 24 hours which partnerships are actually reciprocal and which ones have been one-sided. The people who only valued you when you were available, they're going to disappear when you're not. And good, those weren't partnerships. Those were extractions. Let the eclipse delete them. The ones who recognize your value even in your absence, who respect your silence, who understand that your unavailability is a sign of your power, not a rejection of them, those stay, and they become the foundation of your new wealth reality. Libra, you've been so afraid of imbalance that you stayed broke, and tomorrow ends that. Okay, Libra. Sun, moon, or rising, these final 24 hours are hitting your fifth house, the house of creative self-expression, pleasure, and speculation. And I need to tell you something you don't want to hear. Your need for balance is what's keeping you poor. Your fear of being too much or not enough is why you're still stuck. And these final 24 hours before the eclipse are asking you to completely abandon equilibrium and choose extreme silence. Here's what I've noticed about Libra placements and wealth. You're so concerned with how you're perceived, with maintaining harmony, with not disrupting the balance, that you never make the bold move. You never charge the premium price because it might seem unfair. You never go completely dark because it might upset people. You never choose your prosperity over relationship harmony because the imbalance makes you uncomfortable. And so you stay in this perfectly balanced state of not quite enough. The fifth house rules risk and speculation. This is where wealth gets created through bold, unbalanced moves, through doing the thing that disrupts the equilibrium, through choosing yourself so dramatically that it makes other people uncomfortable. And tomorrow's eclipse is specifically targeting this house in your chart. It's asking you, are you willing to be completely imbalanced for 24 hours to access a new level of wealth? Between now and tomorrow morning, you're going to feel this pull to check in with people, to make sure everyone's okay with your absence, to explain why you're quiet, to balance your disappearance with reassurance. Don't, every time you balance, you dilute. Every time you explain, you weaken your position. Every time you check in to make sure people are comfortable with your silence, you're choosing their comfort over your wealth, and the universe is watching. The women who are going to quantum leap tomorrow, they're not balancing anything. They're in complete, unbalanced, extreme silence. They're choosing themselves so dramatically that it's probably making people uncomfortable. And they don't care, because they understand that wealth doesn't come from equilibrium. It comes from the willingness to be radically imbalanced in favor of your own power. And here's what's going to happen for you specifically. In these 24 hours, someone is going to need you to be the mediator, the peacekeeper, the one who makes sure everyone's okay. And your response to that need will determine whether you walk through tomorrow's eclipse into wealth or stay in the same balanced poverty you've been in. If you show up, if you mediate, if you keep the peace, you're choosing balance over breakthrough. If you stay silent, let the conflict exist without you, let people be uncomfortable without rushing in to fix it, you're choosing your power, and the eclipse rewards that choice with opportunities you can't even imagine yet. The final 24-hour protocol and what absolute silence actually requires. So let's get tactical about what you actually do in these final 24 hours. Because I'm not talking about meditation or spiritual practice. I'm talking about strategic, calculated, absolute silence, and it requires specific actions. First, turn off all notifications, not on silent, off, no vibrations, no pop-ups, no way for anyone to reach you unless you consciously choose to check. Your phone should be a tool you use when you want, not a leash that keeps you available to everyone else's needs. Second, don't explain your absence, not to anyone. If you already told people you're going dark, fine, but if you didn't, don't start now, just disappear. Let them wonder, let them be confused, let them make up their own stories about where you went. Your silence doesn't need a press release. Third, resist every urge to check in, to see what you're missing, to make sure people are okay without you. That urge is the poverty program trying to keep you accessible. Every time you resist it, you strengthen your wealth muscles. Every time you give in, you reinforce the pattern of putting everyone else's comfort before your own power. Fourth, use these 24 hours to do something that requires your full presence, something that has nothing to do with community, connection, or being useful to others. Read a book, take a bath, sleep, stare at a wall. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is that you're doing it in complete silence, in complete disconnection, in complete unavailability to anyone who's been extracting your energy for free. By tomorrow morning at 4:11 a.m. when the eclipse hits, you want to have been in complete silence for the full 24 hours. No posts, no responses, no explanations, no checking in, just void, just darkness, just the absolute proof that you value your energy more than you value their approval. That's the energetic signature that allows tomorrow's eclipse to actually change your financial reality, why this 24 hours matters more than the past 24 years. You know what I find fascinating about this particular eclipse? It's not just another new moon, it's not just another reset opportunity. This eclipse is at 28 degrees Aquarius. That's called the anaretic degree, the final degree of a sign. It contains all the wisdom, all the lessons, all the mastery of that entire sign's journey. This eclipse is the culmination of everything you've learned about community, connection, and belonging. And it's asking you one final question. Did you learn that your power comes from being part of the collective? Or did you learn that your power comes from being sovereign within it? The women who've been performing community, who've been accessible and helpful and available, they learned the wrong lesson. And tomorrow's eclipse is going to show them, harshly, clearly, undeniably. They're going to see exactly how much their community orientation has cost them, how many people took without giving, how much energy they leaked into relationships that never reciprocated, how broke they stayed while being everyone's favorite person. The women who went silent, who chose strategic isolation, who proved through their absence that they've mastered the art of sovereign power within the collective. They learned the right lesson, and tomorrow's eclipse is going to reward them with opportunities that match their scarcity model, with wealth that reflects their self-value, with power that comes from being unreachable, not accessible. These final 24 hours are your last chance to prove which lesson you learned. Your last chance to show the universe through your actions, not your intentions, that you've chosen wealth over likability, power over approval, sovereignty over belonging, and the eclipse is going to respond accordingly. Alright, if you're still here reading this, you have a choice to make right now. Are you going to finish this video and then go silent, Or are you going to keep consuming, keep checking, keep being available until the eclipse hits and you realize you missed the window? Because I'm telling you, the women who are going to transform tomorrow, they're not watching this. They already left. They're already in the silence. And if you want to join them, you need to go now, not after one more video, not after you post about your intentions. Now, complete silence, complete disappearance, complete proof that you've finally chosen your power over their comfort. That's the only way through tomorrow's portal. Everything else is just performance, and the universe doesn't pay performers. It pays women who know when to disappear.